this is better. See how clear it is?
Yeah.
Okay, so we do meditation. Om Pradharsmarami Hridi Samspuradaatmatattvam Satchit Sukham Paramahams Jagatim Turiyam Yat Swapna Jagara Sushuptam Avaiti Nityam Tad Brahma Nishkalamaham Nacha Bhuta Sangaha. Namaste astu Bhagavan Vishveshwaraya Mahadevaya Triambakaya Tripurantakaya Trikalagnikalaya Kalagnirudraya Neelakantaya Mrityunjayaya Sarveshwaraya Sadashivaya Shriman Mahadevaya Namaha. Under the guidance of the Shastra, I meditate upon myself. Shastra tells us that just like a person cannot see oneself unless you can see a reflection of yourself in some reflecting media. So imagine standing on the banks of a flowing water, which is moving. In this picture, you can see your reflection but you still don't see yourself. But when you see the reflection, you can see that it is your reflection. In fact, if you move, then your reflection also moves. So if you had any doubts whether it was you that is being reflected, with this very simple step of moving your hands perhaps, you can see, yes, this is my reflection. So from here we can conclude that even though you don't see yourself, which is always the case in our lives, we never see our own face directly. Never. But it is as good as seeing myself by looking at my reflection. In this example, by looking at your reflection in a moving body of water, you find a distinction through discrimination, through viveka, between the movingness of your reflection and the non-movingness of yourself. You also can see that if the body of water was relatively calm and free of any impurities like leaves or dirt, then your reflection is clearer about who you are. So you see that through viveka, you are able to see that the movement of the reflection does not mean that you are moving. The experience of movement is not indicative of your existence. In fact, it is caused by the upadhi of the water. You are able to ascertain the difference between non-movement and movement, between the person and the reflection. And you are also able to see that the more still and the more clear the reflection is, it is closer to the non-movement and the clarity of yourself. If you were to now see yourself in a mirror, you have a much more accurate, detailed picture of yourself, because the surface is very clear, non-moving. The Shastra advises us that just like that example, where there is a formful body in the reflection, your own self. Even though it is formless, is reflected in the upadhis that you possess. Here, before we go any further, the Shastra advises us that you should not have any doubts as to how a formless vastu can be reflected in a formful manner. The Shastra tells us to look at the example of a water in a pan. In the water in the pan, you can see the sky reflected. The sky, which is all pervasive and is formless, has the capability of appearing to be in a form if the right upadhi is available. So you can actually see a reflection of the sky in the water of a pot or a pan. There also, if the water is disturbed, the sky also seems to move. So with that, the reflection of a formful body in a body of water, or the reflection of a formless sky in a body of water, let us apply to myself, the Atma. The Shastra says, your mind as though it is located in, appears to be located in your body, is like the water in a pan. Your thoughts are moving. Like the movement of the water in the pan. you should see that the movement of your thoughts is the reflection of the non-moving Atma. So here we carry the wisdom of looking at myself in a body of water, in the sense I can see that the movement is caused by the upadhi, and the movement, here the thoughts, does not indicate that I am moving. The Atma is like Akasha, it cannot move. Even if he wants to move. Like Akasha, which cannot move from one place to another. Any place is already occupied by the Akasha. Similar to that, the Atma cannot go anywhere. It is all pervasive, formless, always there, cannot move. But you can see the non-movement by looking at the reflection which is moving. And we also learn from the example that in order to see the non-moving you, a relatively still upadhi is better. So the Vedantic meditation, nididhyasanam, is not just to still the mind. To look at a stilled reflection is not the objective. The objective, if one wants to get a true picture of oneself, is to make it relatively still, but to confirm it's not me, but this is what I look like. So, in Nididhyasanam, as we have seen, there are two aspects. One is to make your mind relatively still and clear and clean. No compulsions of thinking of any kind. That is what is meant by a clean mind and a still mind. The ability to not jump from picture to picture. So the first part of Nididhyasanam is to make the mind still, relatively still. But that's not the real Nididhyasanam. The second part of the Nididhyasanam is to then see that this reflection of me, the non-moving me, the formless me, is an accurate reflection of me. So the two parts are, in a way, sadhana. The sadhana consists of stilling the mind, and the sadhya, the means of seeing and what is to be seen. That it is in fact a reflection of me. At that point, if this becomes clear, then even if the mind were to get disturbed, the disturbance is seen to be clearly belonging to the upadhi. By no means does it indicate that the person is disturbed, the Atma is disturbed. This is the principle of Nididhyasanam, the one that we should reflect on again and again. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashyakrito Vande Bhagavanto Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Veda Vibhagine Vyomavadvyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Rukarastvandakaro Vai Rukarastvannivartakaha Andhakara Nirodhitvat Gururitya Vidiyate Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Nantaf pragyam na bahish pragyam
Nantaf pragyam na bahish pragyam
No bhayataf pragyam na pragyana ghanam
Na bhayataf pragyam na pragyam
Na pragyam na pragyam
Na pragyam na pragyam
Adrishtam avyavaharyam
Adrisham avyavaharyam
Agrahyam alakshanam
Agrahyam alakshanam
Achintyam avyapadeshyam
Achintyam avyapadeshyam
Ekatma pratyayasaram
Ekatma pratyayasaram
Prapancha upashamam shantam
Prapancha upashamam shantam
Shivam advaitam
Shivam
Chaturtham manyante
Chaturtham manyante
Sa atma savijñeyaha.
Sa atma savijñeyaha.
Verse number 12, let's chant 3 verses, 12, 13 and 14 of the Karika. Number 12. Natmanam na paramschaiva
Natmanam paramshaiva
na satyam napi chanritam
Satyam napi chanritam
Pragyah kinchana samvetti
Pragya kinchana samveti
Turyam tat sarvatrik sada
Turyam tat sarvatrik sada
Dvaitasya agrahanam tulyam
Vaitasya agrahanam tulyam
Ubhayoho pragya turyayoho
Uvayoho pragya turyoho
Bija nidra yutaf pragyaha
Bija nidra yutaf pragya
Sacha turyena vidyate
Sacha turyena vidyate
Swapna nidra yutavadyau
Swapna nidra yutavadyo
Pragyastu Pragyastu swapna nidraya.
Pragyastu swapna nidraya.
Na nidram naiva cha swapnam.
Nanidram naiva cha swapnam.
Turye pashyanti nischitaha.
Turye pashyanti nishchitaha.
So what we were looking at in the last class up to verse number 12, and the central idea behind the explanation of Gaudapada's Karika after the 7th verse is that, and this is really an important thing to see, that the word swapna means the dream. Is it important to see the nature of the swapna? And the nature of the swapna that one should maintain in understanding our life is what is called anyatha grahanam. Anyatha grahanam means to take something to be what it is not. It's called anyatha grahanam. So, the avidya, ignorance, is basically the nature of agrahanam, not being able to take something as it is, not being able to take it. And the effect of, so this is the karana, this is the cause. And the effect of this cause is that you end up taking something, you take it to be other than what it is. It's called anyatha grahanam. And so if this is the pure filter that we should use in our life, we have to see what is anyatha grahanam and how that defines the very nature of swapna. So due to this logic, we should not simply say that I had a dream and the dream is now over and now this is the reality. It's not a true, so a Viveki will not think like this. This is what we have to do. Because of habits, this is how we evaluate our life, that the dream is now over and this is what the reality is. It is not. Why is it not? Because the waking state is also anyatha grahanam. Because the pure logic should never be abandoned. There is a certain test. And the test is it anyatha grahanam? Yes. Then it is swapna. So this is what is being said in the verse number 11, for example. Karya karana baddhau tau ishyete vishva tejasau pragyah karana baddhastu dvau tau turyena siddhyataha. So he says that in the dream and in the Jagrat Avastha and also in the Sushupti Avastha, because in the Sushupti Avastha, in the deep sleep state, it is agrahanam. You don't even the possibility of taking something erroneously is not there, because the effect of the cause is absent, but the cause is still there. Agrahanam is still there. And here Gaudapada says, please reflect on the fact that neither agrahanam nor anyatha grahanam is there in yourself. Turiya, it is not there. So use this filter. And so now what happens is that if you examine your life, it is basically swapna. And so the swapna meaning that you are the all-pervasive Brahman, the Atma, unchanging, free of any limitations, free of the effect of time, free of the possibility of death, free of any kind of problems. This is the reality. But you take the world and yourself to be other than what it is. Is it not sapna? Does it not fulfill the definition of swapna? Yes, it must. It's anyatha grahanam. What you should take it to be, you don't take it to be. You take it to be something else. You think of the world as being an enormous one which is pressuring you. You take yourself to be under pressure and reacting as best as you can to the various. This is what the grahanam is. And you fail to see the reality of yourself. So this is an important thing because for us to now anoint the world as real is false. This is your mistake. It's really your mistake. And so you need to at least start to correct the mistake by correctly identifying this as swapna. So this is the method that Gaudapadaji is using for us to correct. Now let's go to verse number 13. So there it says, Dvaitasya agrahanam tulyam ubhayoho pragya turyayoho. So he says, so far we have focused in on the difference between pragya, vishwa and taijasa on one hand and turiya on the other hand. This is what we have been doing. That those are either agrahanam or anyatha grahanam, and turiya has none of those. Na turiyena siddhyataha in number 11. So this is the distinction. But we also should see the similarity. So here a similarity is being pointed out between turiya and pragya. The Atma, the pure Atma, not through an upadhi, but the real person, and also the deep sleeper, which is pragya. So he says, let us now look at the similarity of them. So he says, Dvaitasya agrahanam is the similarity, isn't it? In deep sleep also, there is no taking of any duality. You are just one mass of I don't know. There is no light, no darkness, no nothing. It is just consciousness, but surrounded by I don't know. It's not as though you are there and saying, I know that I don't know. You are just I don't know. But on the other hand, you don't have any dvaitasya grahanam. There is no duality in deep sleep. Similarly is the case in turiya. But with one small and an important difference. So let's look at the first line. Dvaitasya agrahanam tulyam. This is the same between pragya and turiya. But in the second line it says there is now an interesting thing. Bija nidra yutaf pragya. Pragya is endowed with the seed of, I don't know. Nidra here means complete ignorance. Of course, sleep, but sleep is indicative of complete ignorance. You could be, somebody could be picking your pocket and you wouldn't know. Somebody could be stealing your wallet quietly. Otherwise, you would not allow anyone to come in. But here, complete darkness. So, bija nidra yutaf pragya, but that is absent in the turiya. This is not possible in the soul. Here, one important thing to see is that the darkness, the nidra, in the nidra, you, the ahankara, the person is absent. So it is the ahankara, the person, not the sakshi, but the human being, the person, is the one that is responsible for anyatha grahanam. And you are also not there. Very interesting thing to see, the ahankara can never tell when I am going to go to sleep, when I am sleeping, when I am starting to sleep. This is an interesting thing to see. It's not as though you are timing yourself and say, now I'm asleep. That's not possible. Not possible. Why not? Because ahankara and sleep are mutually exclusive. And this is a very beautiful thing to see. And if you want to see the presence of Ishvara and the work of Ishvara, we have talked about many different ways. One of them, which initially was very impressive to me, is my prana. How it goes in and out. And it just gives me the oxygen, takes out the carbon dioxide without any help from me. I remember that when this became clear to me. This is the presence of Ishvara. Pranaha, Hiranyagarbha. It does the job for you. And it is only a childish kind of a thing saying, I am breathing, I am responsible. You're not. This is one thing. Then another thing is the sleep business. Look at this. All you can do is to facilitate sleeping. Facilitate sleeping. So you can stop worrying for whatever you have to do tomorrow. You just take it out of your mind. You are a facilitator at best, and it'll be good if you lie down. You don't have to. You can sleep sitting down as well. Yesterday, the same thing happened to me. I was just looking over the notes of this class, and I had worked out, and I was very tired. And I was supposed to pick up my granddaughter from school at 3:40. And so at about 2:30 or 2:45 or so, I was just sitting on my desk and so on. And my wife was downstairs, and I was supposed to pick up the granddaughter. So she was saying, okay, it's time. And I could hear this in the back of but I was asleep. Really, I was kind of dreaming or something. My head fell down, and I was just so on and so forth. Now she's getting concerned. It was already 3:15, so she came up and said, oh, I see. My head was like this. So she says, you're sleeping. And so I didn't, if I was going to control my sleep, I would have said, okay, I'm not going to sleep because I have to pick up Siana at 3:40. No. Sleep just comes. Ishvara was very kind to me. He says, this guy is very tired. Let him take a cat nap. That's good. So the point is that the sleep is not under your control. You can be a facilitator. But the actual time of the sleep and the actual time of waking up is all controlled by Ishvara. That's not you. Now this is an interesting point to see. So then the difference between pragya and turiya is that in turiya there is no ajnanam. So in complete understanding, there is no anyatha grahanam and neither is there agrahanam. So there, the very lesha, the very presence of the avidya is not there. This is what we have to achieve. This is what our goal is. And if you're able to see this repeatedly with clarity, this is our real nature. The real nature is already there in all the other ones also. In the Swapna also you have the real nature. In Jagrata Avastha you have also the real nature. But there you seem to be constrained, that's all. You're never really constrained, but you seem to be constrained. Just like a room space seems to constrain the space, but it doesn't. But I am very, very controlled by the fact that all this is just poppy talk, some nice talk and so on, but I am constrained. And Shastra says, no, you're not. And so this is the whole issue. And the way I would need to do is to be convinced through all the arguments that really I am not constrained. This is a very funny situation. I have pronounced myself to be guilty when I am not guilty. Actually, there are real cases like this, when there was some kind of a crime committed and the person thought that I was responsible for it and he's jailed. And somebody just came up with some DNA analysis and said, no. So he says, no, I think I did it. It was me. I said, no, you didn't do it. Exactly the same situation. We have already concluded. I am just a limited person, full of problems and so on and so forth. Just leave me alone. This is the way my prarabdha is. What can I do? And Shastra says, no, that's not true. Just look at yourself. Just think about it. You're not true. This is not true. Anyway, so this is another thing. Now, here, Adi Shankara gives a very interesting bhashya. So let me explain this. So he says, I'll read the bhashya here. Nimitta antara prapta ashanka nivritti artham ayam shlokaha. Ayam shlokaha means that this particular shloka, number 13, Dvaitasya grahanam tulyo bhayoho. He says this shloka is nimitta antara prapta ashanka nivritti artham. And what it means is that in deep sleep there is a cause. There is a cause which allows me to be Advaita, to be completely, because it's very clear to us that the deep sleep is a very beautiful state where I don't make this differentiation between myself and others. And in fact, this is the very reason why nothing bothers me. Whatever bothers me is, this is an important thing to see, whatever bothers me in my life is something other than me. And in fact, sometimes your own body-mind bothers you. So you cannot say that it should be other than you. But it really means when you don't like something that is happening in your own body and mind, you're having some problems with the body, or your mind is very disturbed, you don't like it. And the reason you don't like it is because it seems to be other than you. But you've taken it to be yourself even though you don't like it. In fact, you will never not like it if it was really you. So anyway, going back to the basic thing, Dvaitam is the reason for all problems. And that is absent in deep sleep. And so therefore there is no problems. So there is a cause of no problems. And the cause is the absence of Dvaita. So here Adi Shankara says that there is a ashanka. Ashanka means a doubt. Very important thing to see. Ashanka means that perhaps in Turiya also there is a cause of agrahanam. Just like it is in deep sleep, the Turiya also has some kind of a cause. And this shloka says no. This is causeless. And in fact, this is not just an idle thing. All the commentators say that in various schools of thought, this is why the erroneous view is that after understanding the Vedanta, you still have to do something else. You still have to do something else. There is some kind of a higher thing that you have to do. Here Swami Maheswaranji gives a beautiful example. He says, the Mahatmas are sometimes written 108. You must have seen this. 108. So on. Then people thought, our Mahatma is a super Mahatma. This is just 108. So they added another 0 to it. 1008. Okay? And then somebody said, no, this is not, ours is even better. Because his experience of joy, he's singing all the time. Your Mahatma is not singing. He's not really the joyful. He's just smiling. But ours is laughing all the time. He's mad. So his experience is even higher. So your Turiya is lower, our Turiya is better. This is what Swamiji is saying. It reminds me, I saw an interview by Deepak Chopra about 2 years ago. And he was, he comes around all the time and so on. So there was this local Indian TV station here, I don't know the name of it. I just happened to catch something. And so this commentator was asking him, so sir, what is this self-realization that people talk about? Can you tell us? He says, oh, yes. Self-realization is a very super consciousness. So she says, really? Super conscious? Yeah, normally we just have consciousness, but this is super consciousness. Now, I don't know whether he knows it or not, but using words like that shows me really what it is consciousness which is contaminated by some upadhi, or a consciousness which is pure consciousness. It is the same consciousness, no super consciousness. So it's not like there is a super space. It is either space which is contaminated by the upadhi of the walls to say this is room space, or it is pure space. So therefore, this is what Shankara Bhashya is saying. Nimitta antar prapta ashanka nivrityartham ayam shloka. It means, so this is interesting to see. One should not say that this is just ordinary turiya. I need a better turiya. See, this is the thing. And in fact, this is also, there's a very famous Shastra sentence which says, Paunaf punyena shravanam kuryat. Punaf shravanam kuryat. So don't look for a better turiya. It is, look at the same turiya again. So don't keep on, you're saying, okay, I've studied Vedanta, nothing is happening, now I have to do some special meditation, and this, that, or the other, and go to the mountains, and so on and so forth. No. What you need to do is just contemplate on the simple matters of what Vedanta is saying again and again. Remove, this is how the impurities slowly go. You just keep your mind relatively still and look at yourself again. This is what needs to be done. And so from that standpoint, this is an interesting verse that don't look upon the turiya also. In summary, it means don't look upon turiya as having a cause. Because in deep sleep, there is a cause. In deep sleep, there is a cause for Advaita. See that? See, this is the summary of what we have said so far. In deep sleep, there is a cause for Advaita. In Turiya, there is no cause for Advaita. It is naturally Advaita. This is the distinction. Beautiful. This is the reason for this. All these karikas have a reason. We have to see that. It is not just a bunch of words, some poetry and so on and so forth. So now to summarize the number 13. Dvaitasya agrahanam tulyam ubhayoho pragya turiyayoho. In these two they are same. However, bija nidra yutam pragya sacha turyena vidyate. That cause is not there. It is naturally. They say, it's interesting, sometimes they say that ignorance is bliss. This is true. Ignorance is bliss. I mean, sometimes you look at a sad example, very possible that one of your loved ones may have been in an accident, but you don't know it, and you're having a party. You're having a party, and you're enjoying yourself, and so on and so forth. If you knew that your very close one has met into a serious accident, so in that sense, ignorance really is bliss. So this is why deep sleep is bliss, because it is totally ignorant. See? Totally ignorant. But Turiya is not like that. Turiya is bliss because it knows. Just the opposite. Beautiful. Bija nidra yuta pragya sa na turyena vidyate. Sa cha turyena vidyate. Okay. Okay, I think that pretty much said nothing. Yeah, I think we've pretty much covered. So let's go to verse number 14. Swapna nidra yutau adyau pragyah tu swapna nidraya na nidram na evacha swapnam turiye pashyanti nischitaha. Let me just look at some of the concepts that Swamiji has given here. Just give me a minute to just review my notes. Yeah, okay. So here this is a more detailed explanation of what I started the class with, which is the definition of swapna. Okay, so this is now really, I should have waited until this verse came about, but let me now summarize it. So he says, Swapna nidra yutau adyau pragyah tu aswapna nidraya na nidram na evacha swapnam turye pashyanti nischitaha. Okay, so here the first two, which is Vishwa and Taijasa, so the way my identity as a waker and my identity as a dreamer, those two are associated with Anyatha Grahanam, dream and sleep. And then Pragya, he summarizes, which we've already known, is dreamless sleep. But in Advaita, Turiya is neither sleep nor dream. So nothing new, we've already seen all of this. But so here is the main thing, if you look at the commentary by a wise person like Swami Maheshananji, he says that so this verse is to see what is it that I need to do. You explained to me all about what is in the Nidra, what is through all of this and so on. But tell me how should I lead my life? Tell me that. This is the verse that addresses it to a much better degree than others. So he says here, the degree to which you start thinking that the way I'm leading my life is that I am dealing with swapna. without realizing it. This is the situation. So the advice that Swami Maheshananji gives, with lots of examples, is that you will see a lot of the schools of thought will say, you do meditation for an hour or two, and the rest of the time you don't have to do that. Just do it intensely, and you're not capable of doing it any other place. So you force yourself to do meditation, and you're only capable of doing it for a short time. We understand it. And the other time, just lead the life normally. He says this is not good advice. Why is it not good advice? It is like saying that for an hour or so, avoid the Jagrata Avastha and the Swapna state of it. And the rest of it, you can just do it anything you want. Then what should we do? Why is it not? You have to start understanding that my behavior, my conclusions, my relationships with the world and so on is as though it is in a swapna. It is wishy-washy, and I am just headlong involved with the life as it is the real thing. And I have to start to make a dent. When I make a dent, it should be 24 hours a day, at least 12 hours a day when you are awake. And all of the work that you do should be based on this principle. And in fact, he cites the Bhagavad Gita, where Lord Krishna also says, Swakarmana tam abhyarchya siddhim vindati manava. There, Lord Krishna says that really speaking, anything that you do in the day, you should either see me as a Saguna Brahma or Nirguna Brahma. It is not as though I am praying in the morning, like we did the puja, and then the rest of the day I'm leading a secular life. This is not going to really help you. So therefore, the way to approach leading my life so I can understand the essence of what it is slowly develop a natural understanding that the way I approach this is like a swapna. And in order to do this, there are two ways to look at this. Again, going back to the Ishvara's help in this. One is to look at Ishvara as Saguna Brahma. What does that mean? That means whatever is happening to you in your life, don't take it personally. Don't take it, oh my goodness, what did I do wrong? What should I do? Why do these things happen to me? And all those kinds of things. You really need to understand that through your prarabdha karma, through the many past things and so on, this is where you are at this stage, faced with these problems. And it has been well understood, well taken care of, and the results have been well given to you at this point. So involve the higher authority of Ishvara and say, okay, you may not like it, that's a different thing. If somebody is giving you a big slap, you should not be laughing at it. That's not the point. You should say, oops, wow, why did you do this? But deep down below, you have to see why, wow, interesting things are happening to me. People are getting mad at me. Wow, very interesting. So you step back and look at the whole thing. And then slowly you have to involve Ishvara. Involve Ishvara means be aware of the laws of Ishvara. Because nothing is out of place. You are where you need to be at that point. And so this is, and so when you do that, and you also see the limitations of any moments, that problems will go away, and so on. This is the Swapnavastha. This is the Swapnavastha. So when you're dreaming and so on and so forth, it will go away. You'll wake up from it. After it frightens you, because actually it's interesting, they say that Swapna also is, you get your karma phala in Swapna also. So karma phala means sukha dukkha. All the, whether you are happy or unhappy and so on and so forth, that continues in Swapna also. That also frightens you. That also makes you unhappy and sometimes happy, just like in Jagrata Avastha. So, but it's all going, it's a passing show which will just go after a while. But then you cannot just continue with Saguna Brahma. You have to focus eventually. In other words, you know what it means. It's not like what cannot be cured must be endured. It's not like that. So the Saguna Upasana, the Saguna Brahma, taking the things to be Swapna, is just a path to Nirguna Upasana, which is yourself. So the Ishvara, Brahman, is calling you to say, hey, you are none other than me. Just rely on yourself. You're focused on the whole world as though this is so real. It's bothering you, and I understand it. I understand it. Stick with it and turn the attention to yourself. So this is the process which Swami Maheshanji explained in great detail, which explains the central point of this verse. And what is the central point of this verse? That as long as you are in the other three states, it is either Nidra. Nidra means that you do not understand your Nirguna state, or it is Swapna, where you still don't understand your Nirguna state, you are still Anyathagrahanam. And so the way to lead your life, in summary, in order to understand the true nature of Turiya, is to see that at the moment, your involvement with the world is considered to be real, but in fact it is a swapna. In fact, it is a swapna. And how do I know this? Should I just take your word for it? No. You employ the principles of what a swapna is and slowly become aware of its effect throughout your life, every day, every moment of your life. Then alone you will pull yourself back into a deeper understanding of both the way Ishvara's creation is, and you find yourself to be there. And finally, so actually this is what it says, that elsewhere, that the sadhana is to first be very clear about Saguna Upasana. Ishvara that is an important thing. And in fact, this is where, we talked about stilling the mind and so on in the meditation. The way to do that is to make sure that your thoughts are without disturbance and are in the right direction, in tune with harmony of the world, as Swami Viditatmananda points out again and again. And this harmony will allow you to see yourself more clearly. This is the path. This is what it is. So first, get skilled in understanding the Saguna Brahma. And through the Saguna Brahma, you will become more skilled in taking the stock of yourself as Nirguna Brahma. This is the path that we have to do. And so here, two things were talked about in number 13 and 14 together, in summarizing it. One is that Turiya, the sense of completion, does not have a cause. Does not really have a cause. It is natural. And you fail to see that cause. And if you see that cause, then you will not really hanker for something else. Here another example given is that if you were to not see this rope to be a rope, then the cause is not understanding that this is a rope. And so you imagine all kinds of things. And you should not be looking for a danda, a stick to hit this snake with, because it is not there. And so really speaking, that is the one thing that you have to do, is that Turiya is without a cause. It is causeless. And the second thing talked about is that begin the process of understanding why the Jagrat Avastha is also Swapna. And the moment you try to equate the two, there are dissimilarities. Swapna is very short, it is subjective. Jagrat Avastha is much longer, it is objective. And so it is Vyavaharika Sat. There are differences. But those differences mask the fact that both of them are Anyatha Grahanam. They are not really yourself. And so that is the advice which is given in number 13 and 14. And I think with that we pretty much covered that. Let me see if there's something I may have missed. Yeah, just to see, he says that there are a lot of other schools of thought. They say that you do dhyanam and bhajan for about 2 to 4 hours, and after that you've already paid your due respects to Ishvara or through your Ishtadevata. After that you can just do the sansara vyavahara. And he says in Vedanta we don't believe that. That in Vedanta you have to fundamentally change your life. And so there, the puja, as the basic understanding of the Karma Yoga in Gita, the puja is through your own actions and your through attitudes and how you think about it all day long. Not compartmentalize it and say, I went to the temple and I did everything and now I can get angry at people other times. No. It's all the same. That's your puja is doing the whole time. So that is the one thing. I think that's pretty much it. It's interesting. So Swami Maheshananji was another aspect of that. He says, I often hear this. That Swamiji, what you say is true. What you say is true. That there's this, that, or the other. But we have to lead a life. And so what that means is that in India, and this is he's writing it in 1970, this is 50 years back, even there was corruption. Had just started, had not really come up to that level. So he says, Swamiji, this is true, we like you, but you know what? You cannot lead a life without bribing people. I cannot really exist because being part of the corruption itself. So this is the reality. What you're talking about is some theory. Swamiji says, this is exactly like saying that, I'm doing puja for 2 hours and the rest of the time I'm doing vyavahara. And so that means you don't understand. You might as well admit it, that this is just poppycock and doesn't really, I have to do something else. No. And it's admitted that fact that I don't quite get it, and until your behavior, your culture, your thinking becomes pure for the whole day in all of the transactions, only then Ishvara will become very real to you. Otherwise, you will not be making any progress. So, he also says, for example, he says, I find that people in not understanding the reality, not understanding the importance of taking this, are fearful about small things. Small things, they are very concerned about it, trivialities. And until you are beginning to see that you may be involved with trivialities, you're not going to change overnight. All of a sudden you're not going to become a Mahatma. But the start is to be aware that you are being trivial. And there's no need for it. That's the thing. There's no need for being picayune and trivial. And so once you believe in that, and you see that I am okay without it, I don't have to tell a lie. I can be truthful and still be happy. And that I don't have to be angry at anyone. I can just be calm and be happy. Until you test yourself slowly, take baby steps to do so, how are you going to see that this is not swapna, that this is swapna? How are you going to do that? So that is the trend of the teaching. Then he ends this whole thing. He says that how are you going to ascertain this? How are you going to ascertain that this is the way to do it? So he says that a lot of the schools of thoughts will say, let's look at the majority view. So he says, in Hindi he says, Adhunik Siddhant wale kahenge ki vote le lo. Whoever wins, then he says, not. So he gives this example. He says that there was a swan, Hansa, and he was coming down from Manasarovar. And Hamsa means that a very pure bird. And he was taking a rest, and there were a bunch of owls sitting there in the daytime. So in Hindi, the owl is called Ullu. Ullu means absolute idiot. That's what Ullu means. And so he was sitting there. So he was talking, the Hansa was talking to the owl and said, "Wow, what a beautiful sun." So the owl said, "What are you talking about? There is no sun. It is called darkness completely." He says, "What? You don't see the sun?" So the Ullu called some other Ullus also. So the majority the Ullus. He says, how many? There are 100 Ullus and there is one Hamsa. And then we also said there is no sun. And this guy says there is sun. So they all started to attack him. He says, "Baba, I should leave this place. This is the wrong place for it to be." So wisdom does not take majority. This was the last point. Om swasti prajabhya paripalayantam nyayena margena mahimahishah go brahmanebhya shubhamastu nityam loka samasta sakino bhavantu kale varshatu parjanyah prithvi sasya shalini deshoyam shobharahitah brahmana santu nirbhayah सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति 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 हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ओम. Yes.
In this you mentioned that agrahanam and
Anyathagrahanam, yeah.
And Turiya is neither of these.
Yeah.
So it may be something else, or it may be one of these. How do you say it is not?
So there, two things are involved. One is that you have to follow the advice of Shastra, which is good for me in the sense that there is no agenda. This is something that is true and is good for me. So this is one thing. The second one is I have to follow it with the logic that it tells us about. So it's not as though you just believe in it as it is, but you have Shraddha that this is the way it is, and then you follow it up with logic. So logic in the sense that the Turiya means that one which is the very content of the other states of taking things to be, like Swapna and Jagrat and so on. So from where the Swapna and Jagrat comes and goes back. So the logic there is that if there is a small short wave and a big wave, the short wave also goes back to the water, the big wave also goes back to the water. The water is in fact independent of the shortness or bigness of any of the waves. So these are the kind of logics that you have to employ. So by these two instruments, one is Shraddha towards Shruti, and the other one is Yukti. You ascertain that Turiya is independent.
But ultimately, can you stop talking? Ultimately, you'll have to experience it to see, to make sure.
Of course. So this is what you have to ultimately do. You have to be very clear about it. We'll talk about this word experience, an interesting thing. We looked at it in the Tuesday night class, for a while. But this is an important thing. So again, this is not a correct way to look at it, that ultimately you have to experience. You are experiencing it even today, but wrongly interpreting the experience. That's all. We will go into that some other time.
There is one kavita in Gujarati.
Mm-hmm.
જ્યાં જોઈએ ત્યાં કુડે કુડ, સામે સામા બેઠા કુડ. So wherever we go, people talk something here and there, and it is not right, it is always crooked. Who are they? Like owls sitting to each other and talking. Now somebody comes, જો કોઈ આવીને સૂરજની વાત કરે તો સામે આવીને ચાંચર કરે.
Yeah.
So somebody comes, talks about
the sun.
So they start
Attacking him, yes.
heat.
Yeah, this is the classical example given in there, yeah.
I think that is where satsanga comes really useful.
Satsanga
in my
is very
experience,
useful, yes,
because,
yes.
you come across the whole jagat in different forms, and then when
Very
you
much
have your
so.
satsanga, that's where you can reinforce your thinking.
Yeah, I think that, in dealing with the world, one should be very, very helpful in understanding that if somebody says something, you say, they don't know. Here's the thing, we should hold ourselves to very high standards, because if I misbehave because I don't know, then it is understandable. But I misbehave even after I know. This is the fun part, it's the interesting part of it. I should be excused if I didn't know, but once I know, there's less of an excuse. Then I need to be more, be careful about myself and so on, yeah. Yes, sir.
You were mentioning that we should get in harmony with Saguna Brahma. Can you please elaborate on that?
So that just means that you have to slowly understand that the entire spectrum of experiences that you are surrounded by has been sanctioned by Ishvara. It is not, it's not as though who is in charge, this I'm on my own, which is okay to begin with, but the next stage is where you have to see that it is really well constructed. Everything is, nothing is out of, even accidents. There's no such thing as an accident. That's also an incident in the world of Ishvara. And so that takes a little while to understand, because that's not my natural thing. I've been brought up in saying, be yourself, grab it, do things for yourself, and so, which is okay. The grabbing and so on is also part of it. But then we don't like the karma phala. So there is a complete structure between karma and karma phala, and it goes through the hands of Ishvara. There is nothing that Ishvara doesn't know. Your own thoughts were planted by Ishvara. Your reaction to other things are also designed by Ishvara. And so this takes a little while. Right now it's just a word, Ishvara. But to see the presence of that in your life, the involvement of it, and to see that he's your helper, it takes a little while to do. So that's what the harmony means in that manner. Yes, sir.
Sir, does that mean that we should be completely inactive, just like a stone?
No, it doesn't mean that at all. No, that's not the right way to look at it. I need to just tell you about something else that just came up. Ashok Chabra, who's the manager of, he's the manager of the Sailors Barg Ashram, just called me a couple of days ago. There's a Swami called Swami Swatantranandra who's coming here. He is an interesting person. I've never met him, but I've heard about him. He owns the ashram next to Swamiji's ashram in Rishikesh. For those of you that have gone to Rishikesh, you know there is on the left hand side there's an ashram that Sri Sri Ravi Shankar also rents from him. So that is owned by Swami Sotatrananda. And he also has an ashram in Vrindavan, quite a big one. Anyway, he is on a tour just to see the people and so on and so forth. So he's coming here next week, and he's Hindi speaking. So, and he'll be here for a couple of days. And so Ashok asked me if we can host him for a couple of days. What I would say is that if you have the opportunity and if you wanted to just talk to a Mahatma and so on, please let me know. Otherwise, he can stay with me and I will take him around. I think he'll be here Monday and be here through Wednesday. And so I would propose to show him some of the local places and he can stay with me. Or if you want to do that, please let me know. But you should be Hindi speaking when you do that. And
But
then
what about Tuesday class?
Tuesday class will continue, and I can
No, but I
invite him.
mean, can he be?
So what
talking.
Ashok has told me is that he doesn't want to teach, but I can ask him to say some things, but in Hindi. So we'll see how
That's
that
okay.
goes.
That's
I will
fine.
see.
No, but like, we have a class, right? So that way he
Yeah,
can give a
that'll be
talk
nice.
and
Yeah,
everybody
And-
can benefit for that.
yeah. So I will take care. I will.
You can give him a subject to.
Well, I haven't even talked to him. So he's in San Diego. He's supposed to come on Monday, and then, so we will see. But anyway, if you feel that there is an opportunity in your home and you have the time, then you let me know. It's purely optional on your part. Otherwise, I'm planning to spend some time with me at our home, and then I will bring him along. Okay. All right. Thanks.